Hi, welcome to Petradot. And in today's lesson, we'll be talking about expressions and statements. Expressions are constructs that evaluate to a single value. Yes, that is any single value at all in your program is an example of an expression. Now, giving some of the examples of expressions are the literals, variables, arithmetic expressions, assignment expressions, method calls, and object creation. For example, when we say literals is, say for example, a whole number that a constant value that you assign to a variable is an example of a literal. Just like we wrote here, 7, the strange hello world, and a boolean value true that you can assign to a variable. That is an example of a literal. Then another example of an expression is the variables that you create. When you create a variable, say you name it x, or a variable you give a name, or probably you created an integer variable and you called it number, right? Or another example of expression is the arithmetic expressions, where you do a mathematical calculation. Example, 2 plus 3, as we did here. That is an arithmetic expression. Then we also have the assignment expression, where you assign a value to a variable. Say you created a variable before called x, and you come somewhere and assign the value 15 to it. That is an example of an assignment expression. Then we have method calls, which is also an expression. Whenever you call a method in your program, that is an example of expression as well. Also, object creation is also an example of an expression. For example, where you initialized, you created an instance of a string. You just created an object here, which is the instance of the string class. Don't worry, some of these terms we are using method, class, and objects. We are going to be discussing them in future lessons. So just understand that expressions are constructs that evaluates to a single value. All right. So statements. What are statements? Statement is just a complete unit of execution in Java that performs an action, right? And most times it ends with a semicolon. Yes, every statement in Java ends with a semicolon. So examples of them are the expression statement is also an example of a statement. Yes, the expression statement. For example, we created an integer variable here and assigned 3 to it and ended the statement with a semicolon. If you notice, this is a complete action. Yes, it has a complete action, which is creating a variable and assigning the value, and it ends with a semicolon. That is an example of a statement, expression statement. Another example here is as we did num plus plus here, as we are trying to increment it by 1 here, and it ends with a semicolon. That is a complete action on its own. Then the last example we gave here is system.out.println, where you call the method to print something to the output, and the statement ends with a semicolon, right? So another example of the a statement is the declaration statements, where you declare a variable or also declaring and assigning the value. That is an example of declaration statement. Then the last one of a statement is the control flow statement. Control flow statement, where you have the conditional statements, the looping statements, and jump statements. We are going to be discussing all this in the future. That is the conditional statement, looping statement, and jump statement. So where the conditional statement is talking about if else, trying to perform an action based on a particular condition. Then the switch statement, which can also be used in place of the if statement, right? So then we have the looping statements, which includes the for loop, the while loop, and the do while loop. Don't worry if you don't understand what they are, we'll still discuss them in the future. Just understand that these are examples of a control flow statement. So they are also statements in Java. Then the last example of a control flow statement is the jump statement, where you have the break, the continue, and return. And this break, continue, return works hand in hand with the loop statements, right? And the switch statement as well. So don't worry, we are going to still be discussing all of them in the future. Just understand that these are also examples of statements, and statements is a complete unit of execution in Java that performs an action and they end with a semicolon most times. All right. So the last one we should talk about also is a block. What is a block? Block is a combination of statements. Block houses a statement, and it is being housed by the coily braces, which is this place you are seeing my mouse now to the end here, right? That is a block. All right. So this will be the end of our lesson today, and I hope you grab what we discussed today. To recap, we say that expressions are constructs that evaluate to a single value, and the examples are literals, variables, arithmetic expressions, assignment expressions, method calls, object creation. Then while statements is a complete unit of execution in Java that performs an action and ends with a semicolon. Right. So where the examples are expression statement, declaration statement, and control flow statement. All right. So if you have any question or further confusion, you can drop your question on the comment section. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.